Hey y'all, welcome back to the New Sentinel. I'm Chuck Johnson, and today we're diving into a real barn burner of a legal fight, one that's got folks on both sides of the aisle fired up. We're talking about the Department of Labor's decision to cancel $500 million, yeah, that's $500 million, in international labor rights grants. Now that's not pocket change, folks. Labor groups are taking the department to court over it, and the D.C. District Court is trying to figure out if these groups even have the legal standing to challenge the government's move. So, what's at stake here? Well, for labor groups and international labor rights advocates, this is about more than just money. It's about whether they can hold the government accountable when funding gets yanked out from under them. If the court says they don't have standing, that's pretty much the end of the road for this kind of challenge. But if the court says they do, well, that opens the door for a whole lot more oversight on how federal dollars get spent, or in this case, not spent. Now, I gotta say, the question of standing is a tricky one. I mean, can these labor groups really show they've been harmed enough to take Uncle Sam to court? That's what the judge is trying to figure out. And honestly, I'm not a lawyer, never claimed to be. But I know enough to say this is a big deal for how government agencies make decisions and who gets to push back when they don't like those decisions. Now let's get into the weeds a bit. The legal briefs in this case are packed with all sorts of frameworks: SWOT, MOST, PESTLE, and SPEAR. If you're not familiar, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, mission, objectives, strategy, tactics, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal, and, SPEAR. I always forget what that one stands for, but it's another way to break down the arguments. These frameworks aren't just academic mumbo-jumbo. They actually shape how the lawyers are making their case. For example, a SWOT analysis might highlight the strengths of the labor group's position, like their experience in international advocacy, and the threats posed by losing this funding. MOST digs into whether the Department of Labor's decision lines up with its mission and objectives. PESTLE brings in the big picture, how this decision affects not just the law, but politics, the economy, and even international relations. You know, this kind of reminds me of a procurement dispute I saw back in my Army days. We had a contract get pulled at the last minute, and the folks who lost out tried every angle, legal, political, you name it, to get it back. The ones who had their ducks in a row with clear frameworks and solid arguments had a much better shot. Same thing here. The court's going to look at how well these arguments are structured, not just who yells the loudest. So, what happens if the court sides with the labor groups? Or if it doesn't? The ripple effects could be huge. If labor groups win, it could mean more oversight and transparency when agencies decide to pull funding. That might slow things down, but it could also keep the government honest. If they lose, well, agencies might feel like they've got a free hand to cut programs without much pushback. There's a real debate here about transparency and accountability. Some folks say agencies need flexibility to make tough calls, especially with taxpayer money on the line. Others argue that without oversight, you end up with decisions that hurt the very people these programs are supposed to help. I mean, take one of those international labor programs that just lost its funding. Workers overseas who relied on that support are now left in the lurch. That's not just a line item in a budget. That's real lives changed overnight. All right, I could go on about this all day, but I'll leave it there for now. This case is still unfolding, and you can bet we'll be keeping an eye on it. Thanks for tuning in to the New Sentinel. We'll be back soon with more stories that matter. So stay sharp, stay curious, and as always, keep your eyes on the horizon.